There's a couple things we want to talk about today and touch base on. The greenhouse obviously exists for a reason, right? It exists for a purpose. And the most important part of what we're doing here is really making sure that we speak up, that we don't stand by to the sidelines. And right now, it's more important than ever to really reaffirm that that's what we're here for, that that's what we're doing.
And we're not here to, throw logs in the fire. We're here to put water on the plants. You know what I mean?
Wake up in the morning and find something to watch. Watering my plants and checking on my crimes. Not enough love, not enough love in the world. Not enough love, not enough love in the world.
The Greenhouse with Goodness and Vic.
Yes, y'all.
What's going on? Episode 3 of The Greenhouse. It's been a long time coming. 2 weeks, spending some time reflecting, listening, paying attention to everything that's happening in the world. How you been, man? I saw you got a nice little beard trim going on there.
Yeah, man. It's been very, very, very tough 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We were shooting the podcast. The last one we did was podcast number 2, and that was the day that was reported. I think that was the next day after
We actually watched the video that day.
George Floyd was murdered by those 3 or 4 policemen, right?
Yeah.
And man, and we've been seeing what has been happening ever since,
I think right now what we're dealing with is unprecedented, right? We're dealing with times of revolution, of resistance, of all of that we haven't seen in our lifetime, that I haven't seen in my lifetime. And we've seen it in different ways, in different shapes, in different forms, but not to this capacity, with the amount of people that are taking the streets, that are protesting, that are speaking up, right? That are speaking against injustices and the things that are happening nowadays. And I think it's important. It's crucial.
We can't ignore it. We can't stand by and pretend that it's not happening and that it doesn't apply to us. We have to take a stand with the people that are suffering the injustice in this world, and that's what this episode is about, mostly, to let everybody know that we're down with you. Water the Plants is down with you.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things we want to talk about today and touch base on. The greenhouse obviously exists for a reason, right? It exists for a purpose. And the most important part of what we're doing here is really making sure that we speak up, that we don't stand by to the sidelines. And right now, it's more important than ever to really reaffirm that that's what we're here for, that that's what we're doing.
And we're not here to, throw logs in the fire. We're here to put water on the plants. You know what I mean?
Yep. And the goal is, how do we take a step back? How do we stand with our Black brothers and sisters? How do we, as Latino men, as people who come from Latino communities, do what we can on our end to really be sure that we're learning, that we're educating, that we're being respectful, but also that we're speaking up.
And we can't pretend like it doesn't exist in our communities either.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that we don't, being from where we're from, do not experience and know and that these things exist, and it's no longer acceptable to look the other way,
No, not at all. If anything,
I don't
now
think it was ever, but
no. If anything, now you look at it straight in its face.
You look at it straight in its face.
You approach your loved ones, your family, your friends, the people around you, the people you surround yourself with, and you say, "Look, we're all now not allowing any of this shit to pass. Never. No snide comments, none of that. We're really about approaching it head on and being able to address racism in our own communities, right? The most important thing now is obviously supporting our communities, our sisters and brethren in the struggle, but also being able to really spend time and reflect and say, yo, what role do I play in this? Mm-hmm. What role do we play in perpetuating racism, even at the smallest level, even as people who are not racist, right? And how do we continue to do that with the people around us as well, too?
How do we make the future better? How do we create a new history that doesn't involve racism?
Yep. We as Latinos came from backgrounds that were disadvantaged. We were stripped away of certain resources and knowledge, stripped away of certain language, and given other things to supplement that. And we're at a disadvantage. But at the same time, it's about using our voices to help give voices, to help give platforms for other people in order to really be sure to speak on their struggle and to do our part.
Yeah, most people are going to say, you know, well, that's not your battle, Omar. That's not your beef. Why you all up in this? Well, if it happens to them, or it's happened to them for 300 years, and it could happen to us for 300 years. And we can't, like I said, once again, we can't stand on the sidelines and thinking that this doesn't involve us, because there's one race, there's a human race, and we got to stand together, yo, for real.
So what role can we do? What role can you do here watching this show in calling out the people who are perpetuating racism, who are perpetuating discrimination and prejudice, who are perpetuating the issues that are being addressed now in the Black Lives Matter movement, with the George Floyd protests, with the protests against police brutality? We really think it's best to challenge ourselves and challenge the people around us, because that's what we can do.
And why is it different? I mean, we've obviously, you know, you've been around for a while, but it seems like every 10 years we go through some kind of uprising, right? But this one's different, Vic. This one's different. We're seeing a lot of changes, and we're seeing, you know, things that are positive that are coming out of this.
Yep.
Cue
Tupac's changes.
Yeah.
In all realness, though, that's the most important thing right now. And it was important for us to really take the time to reflect and think about what role we play, what role the greenhouse plays, what role Vic and Goodness play in this. Because once again, even if it is not directly the plight, the frontline fight of Black Lives Matter that we are a part of, it affects us, and we have a role in it just the same.
And we took a time out. We took 2 weeks off. And we wanted to hear what our leaders, what the people that were in, you know, that were in the struggle, women in the front lines, you know, had to say, what they could teach us, how we can help. We had to take a pause to listen and find solutions for the future. You know what I mean? Because like I said, we all have family here, we all have kids, and how do we create a better future for them, where racism doesn't exist, where especially where it doesn't, you know, where we're not going to pretend that just because you're a little shade lighter or whatnot, that it doesn't happen to you, and we're going to ignore it. Obviously, you know, we can systematically, you know, get out of our rut or our disadvantages. You know, if you try harder, or if you do better, or if you get lucky. But we can't ignore, just because there's some people that made it,
that it's not a systemic problem.
It's not a systemic problem. And
it's not a systemic problem.
It is. And we have to change that, because it's just the right thing to do.
That the starting line is not different for people. That the journey, that the course is not different for people, right? For people who are black, for people who are darker, for people who have grown up in these places that have been redlined, all of these different things that have been perpetuated by racism, right?
You know, and it's different. Like, I mean, I'm not really like everybody gets a trophy kind of guy, you know what I mean? But this is different. This has nothing to do with fairness. It's not about ever make it fair for everybody. It's about just make it civil for everybody. Make it, you know, possible for everybody. And like there's a systemic problem, and there's a culture problem, right?
Mm-hmm. And right here, we can do what we can to address the systemic problem. There's a number of things you can do.
Right.
Contacting elected officials, being able to participate in civic duties as much as you can, being able to speak your voice to your elected officials and participate in that process. But at the same time, addressing it on the cultural level is what we can all do easily in our everyday life.
And speak to your family, man. Like, you know, starts with your kids, you know. Let them know, man, racism is taught. And whatever the school system's going to teach you for the next 18 years, you have to go back home, erase it, and start all over. Because that's just, like I said, that systemic problem is there to help you be a racist in a sense. And we have to realize and wake up that everything that you've been taught is wrong. It's not the real history. There's a real history out there. And the good thing is that we have the internet. We have Google. We have YouTube. Man, do some research, man. Go out there and do your own research and find out the truth, about where everybody comes from and the difference between why we look different. And it has nothing to do with luck. You know what I mean?
At this point, we have access to a plethora of information. We have access to social media. We have access to Google. We have access to so many resources. Learning on your own and educating yourself is number one in any of these processes. But also at the same time, we're at a huge advantage that things can be shared that normally might have been held secret by gatekeepers, right? By people who are controlling the mediums through people, which the ways through which people learn things, right? And because of that, we're seeing the effects of what are happening because of these protests. We're seeing what these protests are doing. We're seeing the actual effects of the fight, of the struggle, and really what that's been looking like in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, what are some of the positive things that you think that have come out of this whole, protest, this whole Black Lives Matter movement?
Just in LA, just in Los Angeles, the mayor, the city council has decided to defund hundreds of millions of dollars from the LAPD and decided to engage that money into community, into ways to help to empower those who may be marginalized, who may not have as many access to resources. And that's crazy.
Yeah, man. I was just talking to, some of my buddies, and I was like, everybody has Netflix and they all donate $12 a month or whatever the subscription is. Why can't we just donate $1 to help something, like a month, create a fund, somebody out there, anybody that can do it, create a website, whatever, put $1 and we can help these disenfranchised schools and because it's all education and opportunities, sports programs, whatever.
Resources, community spaces.
Something as simple as lunches for kids.
Rent, assistance in all these different ways. And I think even though that's a small amount, we're talking a billion-dollar budget, multi-billion-dollar budget to my understanding for LAPD. And even a couple $100 million, which we have a long way to go, which there's way more for us to do there. That in itself is showing that the voices of those who have been voiceless, the frontline people who are on the ground really yelling for what is needed and what is necessary are having an impact, right? And that's what we're here to highlight because there's so much stuff out there that you're seeing that's negatively portraying protesters and negatively portraying what's actually happening on the ground. And obviously, you only know if you're there at the end of the day. But you can't deny things that are happening because of it. Right? You can't deny that all around the U.S., you're seeing Confederate flags, Confederate statues torn down from the places that have had these histories of racism, of prejudice, of discrimination, and that history being removed because it's happened, but now it's time for us to learn from it.
It's sad that it took that long,
Yep.
I mean,
you're talking reminders. You're talking daily reminders of things that are telling you at one point you were not equal at all. If you didn't already know that in your daily life, you are reminded by a statue that that's the case.
And I mean, we don't see a lot of that stuff sometimes here because we're in the West Coast. But if you go to the South, you go to Atlanta, you get reminded every day. You know what I mean?
All day.
And it's real, guys. Everybody lives. A quote I heard. Everybody is watching reality TV, but what are we living? You know what I mean? Is it a facade? Or, you know what I mean? Let's not be asleep. Let's wake up. I mean, we've been trying to figure this out for years.
And we're talking eliminating distractions.
Yeah,
we're talking no more bullshit. We're talking let's actually speak for the unheard. Let's actually allow the unheard to speak for themselves. Let's actually be quiet when we need to be quiet. Let's speak up when we need to speak up. And let's make sure that we play our role here, right? And you're seeing that, once again, you're seeing that in all these different forms. But most importantly, and I really think that we're going to continue to see more happen. We're going to continue to see things happen that are tangible, that are amazing, right? The discrimination in the workforce against LGBTQ trans folks, right? Things like that being able to be completely removed so that doesn't happen. But most importantly, where it starts is in these conversations.
Yeah, and you know what? And I have a pastor, that I watch on Sundays. That he's actually part of the school that my son goes to, and he's very open about like letting people of transgender and gay community into the church, and because they need God as well. You know what I mean? And like it's like he's very pro that, and to me, I like that. I like that he's very awake. You know what I mean? He's very awake to letting everybody be a part. Like he's not letting anybody out in the street. You know what I mean? Just because they're different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they don't fit your criteria or whatnot, or your beliefs or whatever.
But that's a process of unlearning.
Yeah.
And that, I would even argue, is more than learning.
Yeah.
The process of unlearning all the shit that you have been conditioned to know as truth, to know as fact, to know as the only path you can take. That's where I'm in. I'm in the middle of unlearning all the stuff that I grew up about, all the things that I heard when I was a kid about different races and different people, and all the stereotypes that were perpetuated by growing up in a Latino Catholic family, right? And that's a process, right? But this is what needs to happen.
Right.
These conversations need to happen, and they're going to be uncomfortable.
They're going to be uncomfortable.
They're going to be uncomfortable, and they're going to be hard.
And it's going to be uncomfortable for even us sitting here talking about this. For a lot of people, they're going to be like, what? And to me, it's time to stop that bullshit.
You and I come from the same place, but completely different time.
Exactly.
We come from those who don't know, Omar and I come from a similar place, grew up in a similar area, and grew up in different times. And there's a lot of things that remain the same, and there's a lot of things that changed.
It's trippy because, growing up in the 90s, like we were already there. We had artists like Pro Righteous Teachers, X-Clan, and, like everybody was talking about like this, these same topics that we're talking about 30, 40 years later.
Yep. But you were in a silo. You were in a circle of people who were down for making sure that wasn't going to be an issue in your community.
Yeah.
And in a lot of circumstances, people aren't.
And I think the last 10, 15 years, like we've been like lullabied back to sleep or something. I don't know. To me, it just doesn't make sense.
You think it was back to sleep, or you think that there was just a group of people who you grew up with who were down for the cause?
I think you know what? I think I was able to get to a point where I was unlearning, and then surround myself with people that hugged me like they were their brothers and sisters, even though what color they didn't really matter, And we all empathized with the struggles of the black people because we heard it in the music. We heard it in the movies. We saw it. We learned from the teachers that taught us about the systematic problems that we have in this world.
And that's the reason why we focus here at Water the Plants on the positive.
Right.
Not because we're ignoring the negative, but because we all spend too much time worrying about the negative and focusing on that, and don't let the positive drive us.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it can't be super negative or hate, drama every time. Sometimes you need a little escapism, but it can't just be escapism and negativity. It's got to be a balance, you know what I mean? And positive. The only way you're going to get through darkness is with some light.
Yep. And that's what we're here. That is why Water the Plants exists.
Yes, sir.
That is why in the last 2 weeks we've spent time thinking about what our role is and what our responsibility is, and that's what we're here for.
Yep.
We're here to uplift voices. We're here to give people a platform. We're here to put art out there that we think is important, that everyone around us thinks is important.
And it's the youth. We're giving an opportunity to the youth to come into our studio, to speak their words, and provide the resources that they might have not had,
Yep.
And it had nothing to do with race. It's just about
It's about stories.
Stories, exactly. Just stories and gratefulness. Kids, people that really appreciate the system here.
Yep.
They're more than welcome to come here and do what they got to do to get their name out there, to
hustle, learn,
whatever,
work, but
anything,
also,
give them all the knowledge that we have. If it's not enough, but at least we give them everything that we have.
Yep. And understand the process, because it's a process. All of this is a process.
Yes, sir.
And the part that I'm grateful for is that we have this conversation.
Yes, sir.
And that we can show people we can have this conversation.
Yes, sir.
Right. And we can pass that message along, and we can lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what Water the Plants is about.
Okay.
So this week we decided to change things up a bit. We're not doing this Dick of the Week. We're going to hold off for this week and really focus once again with our purpose being positivity. So this week we're focusing on you, the American people, as our hero of this week, because our goal, our hope, our mission, our responsibility is that all of us, ourselves included, everyone in this space included, that we spend time really, really learning to have these conversations, really learning to be uncomfortable, really learning to unlearn the things that we have been taught, the things that we have become to know,
Yeah.
right, as truth.
And then we said in the last episode, a fact is only a fact until proven otherwise. You know what I mean? And if you're getting fed all this, you're getting fed all this information that you sometimes would think that it's the truth, until you step in someone else's shoes and you realize that all that was bullshit.
Yep.
And to me, like, unlearning is a great point. Unlearn all the bullshit, all the hate. It's okay. It's a lot easier to love. It's a lot easier to smile. It's a lot easier to like, someone looks at you hard, to say, hey, what's up, man? How you doing, bro?
Yep.
Instead of being like looking at them hard back. You know what I mean? Like, because then what happens after that? It's like, let's fight.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, oh, what's up? And then what's up?
How productive is that?
Yeah.
What does that actually do in the long run, right? What does that actually build?
For sure.
What actually happens for that? So that's what we're shooting for here. That's our mission. We want to honor everyone who's taking the time to do that, to have these conversations with their parents, with their sisters, with their friends, with their partners, whoever it is, because that's what we got to do.
Have you seen those things online with the the white girl talking to her parents about like
racism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those like things. Those are pretty interesting.
Yeah, and do it in whatever way you got to do it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's number one, and that's what we got to get going, and that's the process that we got to start here, and that's what we want to lead by example doing. Right, that's what we want to lead by example and expressing and showing that that's the most important thing. The end of the day, all we got is the people around us and how we can continue to build together. Right? And not separate more than we have to. So we got, as always, an amazing group of artists who we're going to be showcasing this next week. Most importantly, an amazing group of stories, of voices, of people who have something to say and something to put out there that we want to highlight. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On Tuesday, we got Harmless coming through on A Shot in the Dark, on this original song called Swing Lin. The first time I heard Harmless was in a podcast with one of my good friends at Orale Magazine, and just listening to him, I knew immediately that he was genuine, that he was authentic, and that he had a story to tell. And both as someone who produces and writes his own music, can tell it through that way and can really express that. So through his indie rock style, he's really been able to navigate the different roots of Latinx culture and combine that with what you traditionally see as a white indie genre, you know what I'm saying? And be able to create that with his music.
And when he came to the studio, man, like, shit you not, he has a great story. He has a great story, and he has a cool little, like, vibe, and his music's amazing. And he even, like, did some other stuff that you'll probably see later on in the year, where he flipped his own song. It was pretty crazy.
He's doing some amazing stuff. He just dropped his most recent EP, Condiciones, earlier this year, focused on a really near fatal accident he was a part of. Just dropped a recent single. Be sure to check it out. Monday, Harmless for A Shot in the Dark, performing Swing Lin. On Wednesday, we have a Topsoil with Dope by Design doing Confessions, Bad Bad Not Good cover.
P-Town.
It's representing Pomona, this amazing group that fuses hip hop and jazz and just really takes that modern style that we've all gotten used to seeing, because we talked last time, that's happening more often than you see. You see that you've seen in the past. You're seeing hip hop come together with jazz and really just have this new baby that is conscious, that is driving with melody and really allowing the story to be driven through every single instrument. And these guys, I mean, this video is amazing.
Real hip hop.
Seeing them play live is out of this world because they're all masters at their craft.
It was a really good performance, and shout out to Miyagi for bringing them to the studio and letting them represent.
Yes, sir.
Pomona, if you guys don't know, that's kind of where I started doing Third Place.
Yes, sir.
And you're starting to hear a lot of that. Third Place, Pomona, 2nd Street,
right there downtown. There you go. So we got Wednesday, Dope by Design for Topsoil, performing Confessions, a Bad Bad Not Good cover. What do we got on Thursday?
Thursday, we got my main man, Bobby Castro, doing a song called Fuistes. I think it's an original. And he does an acoustic version of it because it's A Shot in the Dark. and he's kills it, man. He's Bobby Castro is probably one of these most talented people that have came through this studio because he's very versatile. And he's unique. There's a big corrido scene right now in Los Angeles and all around the world. And he's kind of an American corrido singer in a sense, but he's from Mexico. He's Mexican American.
We're talking about like bridging.
Yeah.
We're talking about bridging cultures and gaps.
Yeah, well,
here.
hip hop. He's like a rapper,
Yeah.
corrido singer, folk singer, blues R&B singer. Like he does it all, and he's from our neighborhood. He's right here. Grew up and raised in like the same SGV, and man, like I'm super excited for everybody to get to know him. And not only that, he will be on one of the tracks that released this week.
Let Love Lead the Way.
Let Love Lead the Way.
Yeah, coming out. Check it out online on our socials.
Yeah.
You can see
He has a killer rap on that. He does English and Spanish. He smashes it.
Yep.
Bobby Castro, keep a lookout for that dude. He's the next big thing coming out of Los Angeles. Check him out.
Thursday, Shot in the Dark, performing Fuiste, original song, Bobby Castro.
Bobby Castro, Fuiste. Check it out on our YouTube page.
As always, every week, we thank you for joining the Greenhouse. We thank you for spending your time with us, although maybe it's not the best time to spend it now, but in most cases, it's the best time to spend it. At the end of the day, we're all about growing. We're all about watering the plants. This is what we're all about here. This is what we're representing. This is the most important thing to us. Stay strong, stay humble, stay loud, keep growing with us. Black Lives Matter.
And go into the world with peace, man. Have courage in your heart and return no evil for evil, man. Water the plants.
Let's go.